Hey guys, it's a Spicy Cetacean. Welcome back to my channel. Me and the kid have coronavirus, so we are both home from school and work, and also I can't sleep. It is 5:30 a.m. and I've been up for like 2 hours, so that means you guys get a new video. I'm in my narwhal pajamas. I love these things. They're so comfy. I'm not sponsored by MeUndies, but I love their stuff. Anyway, I have a non-Hovind video for you today, and I will admit my biases are going to show. I'm going to do my best to critique both sides of this debate here, but one candidate in particular is pretty spicy and provides a lot of data for feedback. We are going to watch the 14th District of Georgia debate between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Marcus Flowers, and it's going to be a fun time. This one went viral-ish, particularly for Marjorie Taylor Greene's reaction in the very, very beginning. So we'll see some interesting body language and also some things to compare and contrast. So buckle up, because this one's going to be fun.
Karen Greer, anchor with WSB-TV in Atlanta. Welcome to the Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series from the studios of Georgia Public Broadcasting. This is the general election debate among candidates for Congressional District 14. Now, 14 is located in northwest corner of the state. It includes Paulding County, parts of Cobb, and extends up to Dade and Catoosa counties. Let's meet the candidates for this debate. They are in alphabetical order. Marcus Flowers, a Democrat, is a veteran and has worked for the State Department and Department of Defense. Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican, is the incumbent Congresswoman from District 14. Now let's meet our panelists.
She had a really hard time holding that smile. Whereas, Marcus, I would say probably more comfortable in front of the camera than Marjorie Taylor Greene is. And that's not a slight, because when you're in front of a camera for like a national audience, I haven't been, but I can imagine it's pretty nerve-wracking. So I'm not going to necessarily fault anybody for being nervous in front of, a national broadcast. But I will say that just from Marcus's stance versus Marjorie Taylor Greene and the way that he holds his expression versus the way that
Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican, is the incumbent Congresswoman from District 14.
Also, her hands are on the podium.
Now let's
as more of like a way to brace herself, whereas Marcus is standing. I can't tell if his hands are on the podium or not. Actually, I take that back. He is a little bit more closed off, a little bit more protective, but I would venture to guess the host, Karen Greer, mentioned that he's a veteran, so I would imagine it may have something to do with his military training versus Marjorie Taylor Greene, who it was not mentioned that she had any military experience, but I like how she just drops the smile and then brings
District
back up.
14. Now let's meet our panelists. John Druckenmiller is the publisher for Hometown Headlines, now part of the Times Journal Inc. media group based in Rome, Georgia. And Josh Rowe is an anchor with WTVC in Chattanooga. For complete rules on today's debate.
So John dropped, I think that was John, the second guy, dropped his smile a little bit, but he committed to it and stayed not smiling, like with the teeth smile. He had it, let it drop naturally, and then stayed with it, dropped.
please visit the Atlanta Press Club website, atlantapressclub.org/debates. To start the debate, each candidate will be asked one question by each panelist. Candidates have 60 seconds to answer each question. John Druckenmiller, you get the first question to Marcus Flowers.
Thank you, Karen. First off, candidates, thank both of you for running. We know what a time to demand this is and what it means to your lives, so thank you for doing this. First question, I believe, goes to Mr. Flowers. Mr. Flowers, nearly 20 Republicans and 20 Democrats have run against Ms. Greene in the last two elections, 20 candidates total. Each one has had a strategy that has been, I am not MTG. In your race, in the last week alone, 37 emails have come to our Rome News Tribune server.
I just want to say 37 emails in a week is excessive. If you are watching and you're a political candidate anywhere, please don't send 37 emails. Oh my God.
From your account, saying the same thing, I'm not MTG. What is your platform?
Well, thank you for that question, John. First and foremost, I am running as Marcus Flowers, not Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know, I got into this campaign because of the events of January 6th and Congresswoman Greene's participation in that. You know, this is about so much more than just having a representative who doesn't represent our district, but it's about our democracy and not.
So interesting. So he licked his lips there, and I've watched this all the way through a couple times. It seems to be part of his baseline, either when he's making a point or when he needs just a quick second to come up with his next talking point. I don't think in this case it is indicative of deception, or, I mean, he may be withholding an opinion just because it's national television and he doesn't want to say everything he thinks because that would damage his image. And I mean, I can't blame him. You can't say anything you want on national TV, or you get things like Marjorie Taylor Greene. He is animated. He moves his forehead a lot. I wouldn't say, it's hard to tell from the camera angle and also the quality of the video that I managed to download, but it doesn't look like he's got a ton of crease lines, so like it's kind of hard to see on me. But when somebody uses their forehead a lot, the crease lines stay. There is some truth to, if your mama told you your face is going to freeze that way, right? And that's because people who do the same movements will permanently crease their skin. And we will see it on Marjorie Taylor Greene, especially the smile lines around the eyes. So that is somebody who is used to smiling as big as her eyes. Whereas on Marcus Flowers here, we don't see a ton of lines. And again, that could be makeup. That could be the camera quality. It does seem like he is more specific about when he uses his forehead and when he talks. He is nodding, he's moving his hands, he's moving his body. So for the most part, he's not overly animated, but he is somewhat interactive and makes good eye contact with the camera, and good eye contact with the people who ask the questions and with Marjorie Taylor Greene when they are going back and forth. So I would say that overall, Marcus Flowers' body language speaks to him being more comfortable and speaks to him having more confidence in what he's saying. And we'll see Marjorie Taylor Greene's side in just a minute here.
Running as MTG has never been my platform. Yes, people see that we have an outsized social media account, but that's not the secret sauce of this campaign. We've knocked over 70,000 doors in our district.
He licked his lips again there. So I think that's just making a point, giving himself another second. And a lot of times when you're coached, you're told not to say, watch your ums and your ahs and any other crutch words that you may have, because we want to fill the space. We don't want to have empty, dead air. And a lot of times people will say or have a crutch word. So it may be that if he's been coached to do that mouth gesture instead of a filler word.
Those real conversations with the people of Northwest Georgia, our local leaders, our mayors, our commissioners, our city council members, and yes, our law enforcement officials. And every one of them that I've talked to, almost to a person, has said Marjorie Taylor Greene is not who they want representing them. So yes, this campaign is about Marcus Flowers, not MTG. Thank you.
Joshua, it's your turn.
I need a rebuttal to that. You cannot accuse me of insurrection. I was a victim of the January 6th riot just as much as any other member of Congress. That was the third day I had on the job. I had nothing to do with what happened there that day, and I will not have you accuse me of that.
One thing that is consistent with Marjorie Taylor Greene throughout this debate is her eye contact is nowhere near as good as Marcus Flowers. She's looking away a lot, and in her case, she's looking, I can't tell if it's down at the podium or just down at the floor. We all have places, I've talked about this before, that our eyes go for, like home, when you're thinking about something, or emotional, or factual, or dates, or whatever. And there was a filler word. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't think she's looking at notes, because we'll see her look at her notes later. And this in particular, this is her rant that went kind of viral, because she hasn't been asked a question yet, and already she is on the defensive, and she's using her finger here as like an attack. It is very much it reminds me of how, like, if you come up on a cat and surprise them, and you know they bat a paw out at you, or they hiss or something, it's very defensive, very reflexive defensive. And I would, like, it's clear that she's feeling attacked. I would say, so it, like, I'm not a coach. I am not a professional. Standard disclaimer, I am an amateur. I'm a talking head on YouTube. I represent only myself. I would say her coach, if she has one, should have told her not to do that. Because it's off-putting when she immediately comes out of the gate aggressively. It's an aggressive at her opponent gesture. It's not terribly likable as far as politicians go, or public figures. What I would say, though, is the constituency who consistently votes for her likes that about her. So it's not necessarily a detriment. If it were a close race between her and any of her opponents, you know, I would hope that her coach would tell her to do some more welcoming gestures, the open palms, the open chest, better eye contact, or at least more consistent eye contact. Again, it could be a nerves thing. The looking away to the floor or the podium, she's not reading notes. Her eyes aren't staying there long enough to be reading notes, I don't think. So I can also see where, and we'll watch later in the video, where Marcus Flowers is very much a politician. He is very much about, I don't want to say like flirting or romancing, but like he is aware of how he comes off and is utilizing that to his advantage, if that makes sense. So he is trying to appeal to a large group of people, whereas Marjorie Taylor Greene is really just trying to appeal to her core base, and she's not necessarily interested in appealing to a wider audience. And I think that is one thing that that is a detriment to Marcus Flowers or anybody against Marjorie Taylor Greene. Is the reason that she has been elected is because the folks who voted for her didn't want a standard cookie cutter politician in office. They wanted somebody new and different, and that was what she offered. And the constituents who vote for her, I have a cup of chicken broth on my desk, and my cats smell it. Over here, you. Sorry, dropping stuff. Yeah, so I think standard politicians are not going to necessarily work when running against Marjorie Taylor Greene, because more people want something different than what they've always seen in politics. That's what I've got. But yeah, I would recommend that she not come off so aggressive right out of the gate, especially because she says don't accuse her of insurrection. He didn't say insurrection, and she's the only one who brings up that particular word in this debate. Later she calls it a riot. But yeah, he didn't bring up insurrection, and he didn't necessarily say well, he does later. I won't say that, but yeah.
That is wrong of you to do. You're lying about me, and you will not defame my character in that manner.
Did Joe Biden win the election, Congresswoman Greene?
Joe Biden is the president of the United States.
That doesn't answer the question. That is a diversion, and she knows it and he knows it.
Absolutely, but you pushed a big lie that said he did not win the election.
There was election fraud.
You drove those people to the Capitol.
She is avoiding eye contact really strongly right here. I'm going to rewind a few seconds. Watch her eyes, because it might look like she's looking at him, but actually her eyes are closed. So she's looking away and looking down and just keeping her eyes closed here. And that is, it's a form of putting up a barrier. So it's a high indicator of stress and discomfort, which can be attributed to not telling the truth. It's not a guarantee. None of this is guarantees. But watch her eyes.
Green.
Joe Biden is the president of the United States.
Absolutely,
Marcus.
but you pushed a big lie that said he did not win the election.
There was election fraud.
You drove those people to the Capitol on January 6th with your lie.
We're going to move on.
The entire time she's talking about election fraud is when she's closing her eyes. So for me, I would say she knows that there wasn't any. It's been investigated multiple times. There have been no major incidents of election fraud in the United States for the 2020 election. There just hasn't been. But she keeps pushing it and keeps saying that she has evidence, or that her husband has evidence, which is her estranged husband, because he filed for divorce, by the way. So I don't know. Is she getting the evidence in the divorce? I'm not sure. I am divorced also, by the way. It sucks. And I really am sorry that anybody has to go through it. Going through it sucks. Being divorced is awesome. Getting divorced sucks. So I am sorry that anybody has to go through it. It really does suck. But yeah, I would say that she doesn't fully believe what she's saying when she's talking about election fraud, because she is not making that strong eye contact for when she is sure of what she's saying.
Josh Rowe, it's
election
your turn
fraud,
to ask
and my
a question
husband has
to
proof
Marjorie
of it.
Taylor Greene.
We have FOIA evidence of proof of election fraud that came out.
Excuse me, we're ready to move on to the next question for you.
Okay, but he's not going to accuse me of a crime.
Would you like your question? Would you
one.
like your question?
Yes, ma'am, I would. Thank you.
Karen Greer is an excellent moderator. I like her a lot. One of the things that you can do with difficult people is simply repeat yourself. And I love that that is the tactic that she jumped right to with Marjorie Taylor Greene here, because it's hilarious. Just, would you like the question? Would you like the question? Would you like the question? Yes. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Liar, by the way.
There's a
Ad hominem, by the way.
Crisis in your district tonight. I'm going to lay this out as quickly as I can here. The future of the DACA program is in jeopardy in the courts. You have a bill that would eliminate DACA. You said this on Twitter 10 days ago. A plan must...
This is a good example of the forehead creases here. So, is his name John too? I can't keep track. Anyways, you can kind of see how he is using his forehead a lot, and off to the sides he still has like little remnants of the creases also. So this is somebody who is particularly expressive with his forehead. Meanwhile, I want you to watch Marjorie Taylor Greene's forehead, because it doesn't move at all. I'm not even interacting with an actual person, and I'm using my forehead. I don't know. So somebody who doesn't use their forehead a lot, there's a couple different indicators there. And I don't want to necessarily say all of them, because I don't have any evidence. I will say it is interesting to me that when faced with someone directly, and she's making decent eye contact with him during this question, she's not even raising her forehead in acknowledgement. And that is very interesting.
Must be developed, and that's an accurate statement, right? I talked to one of the state reps there in Dalton this week, Republican. He tells me that if DACA goes away, 10% of the labor force in Dalton also would go away. A huge part of the economic engine in your district, right? You got people who live in every county in your district who work in Dalton, get a paycheck there, take that money back to those other counties, buy homes, pay taxes, goods and services. So, and I also asked, what happens if DACA goes away? What happens in Dalton? He said, devastated, devastated. So tonight, be clear with your district. What actually happens if DACA goes away, and then what is your plan?
Well, Josh, first and foremost, I swore an oath to the Constitution, and I represent the citizens of the United States of America, not DACA recipients. And I also represent our district that believes in strong borders.
This doesn't answer the question. She's going back to the talking points that her constituencies like to hear, which is pretty inflammatory and not terribly welcoming isn't the right word, but it's not, I mean, it's not great. So, like, this isn't the only time in the debate where she just completely veers off and doesn't answer the question at all. And it's really, it's frustrating as somebody who wants to hear that. You know, myself, like, I want to hear what she says about what happens if it goes away. I think, is DACA the dreamer thing? I want to say it's funding for children of people who have immigrated or are like either illegally or in the immigration process. Oh no, I'm gonna get it wrong. We're gonna Google it. Sorry guys. It is the Dreamers Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, relief from deportation when and it protects eligible immigrant youth from deportation. Yeah. So what's interesting to me about her opinions about DACA and what we'll see later is she later attempts to represent herself as part of the party that wants to protect children, but just white children, because these children, the recipients of DACA, are still children, but because their parents are either waiting on citizenship or waiting on visa or whatever, because the majority of the people who are in the country illegally, the majority, I'm not talking about people who cross the borders and don't go through the process. The majority of people who are in this country illegally are here because they overstayed visas, not because they crossed in illegally. They came in legally. They stayed longer than they were supposed to. It's just insanely hypocritical to me, because she goes off on a tangent later about protecting children. This is something that protects children, and she's very against it.
We've had over 5 million people illegally invade the United States of America since Joe Biden became president. Fentanyl is now the #1 cause of death in young people from 18 to 45, and they are using...
I just want to point out that DACA has nothing to do with fentanyl, and the question was about DACA.
Narcan every single day in Northwest Georgia, which, by the way, is not next to the border of Mexico. Because of this border crisis, it has caused a human security crisis like we've never seen before. Joe Biden and his administration is the greatest business partner to the Mexican cartels that we have ever seen in United States history.
Citation needed. She doesn't cite her source for this at all.
The only thing that I'm going to do to represent Northwest Georgia and Georgia's 14th district and the workers and the...
I mean, it's a debate. Nobody really cites their source, but that needs a citation. because it's highly inflammatory.
Businesses there is to legislate and vote so that they have a strong economy, they have job opportunities that will not be stolen by people.
See how she keeps looking down. I don't think if it's her notes, they can't say very much, or she's got like just bullet points that she's glancing at. I'm not sure. Her eye contact is not great.
Illegally invading our country to steal their jobs. I know the representative you're talking about is probably Casey Carpenter, who seems to be more interested in representing illegal aliens than the legal citizens of Northwest.
No human is illegal. I just want to say that.
Georgia.
Thank you. Your time is up. John, your question for Marjorie Taylor Greene.
All right, Ms. Greene, since taking office on January 3rd, 2021, what is the one specific accomplishment solely on behalf of the 14th Congressional District that is most important to you?
Well, I tell you what, it's been hard to pass any bills in a Democrat-controlled, Nancy Pelosi-controlled House of Representatives, a Senate that is controlled by one vote with Kamala.
She keeps looking. I don't think it's at her notes at this point. I think that's too high to be her notes. So she's looking away. She's very uncomfortable with this question, and I imagine it has to do with the fact that she hasn't been on a committee in a very long time to get anything done. I don't think that that's necessarily a problem for her constituency, because the things that she is doing and getting in the news for is the stuff that they like to see, which is why she's won out against her other opponents.
Harris as the Democrat vice president and a White House that is controlled.
I just want to say it's Kamala, like a comma in a sentence, Kamala Harris.
By Democrats, Joe Biden. Now, what we've done to accomplish things for Northwest Georgia is I'm proud to be able to bring in money via grants to help our local sheriff's department and help local businesses there. We've also worked.
Marcus Flowers touches on this too, but those grants that came in were going to get awarded to Georgia anyway. Like, she maybe signed the form that says, yes, we'll accept this money, but literally anybody in her, that is an exaggeration or an example. Like, I'm just trying to illustrate, like, they were going to get that money anyways, whether she was the person there or not.
Very hard with the flooding that happened over in Somerville. And so we've worked hand in hand with officials there and look forward to helping them more as damages and amounts of money come out. So I'm very excited to vote and to introduce.
She's looking down a lot and not at the person asking the question or the camera.
Bills that uphold the conservative traditional values of the people in my district, and I'll continue to do that.
All right, Josh, you get the final question. Did you have a rebuttal?
Yeah, I didn't hear an answer there. Ladies and gentlemen, Representative Greene said she's passed all these bills and brought money into our district. Well, you haven't. You know,
no, I voted no to Joe Biden's radical Democrat bills, Marcus.
Don't necessarily come from Congresswoman Greene.
Hold on.
People write grants for their organizations to get government.
She is so mad. and what's really funny is Marcus Flowers knows it. So it's apparently fairly easy to bait and Marjorie Taylor Greene and just set her up to do this because she cannot help herself. The self-control when responding to things, like, all you have to do is just make facial, expressions to express your disagreement, but she just explodes. I don't know if explodes is the right word, but she definitely will let you know what her opinion is, whether it's her turn to talk or not. And Marcus Flowers knows it, and it's hysterical because you can see it when he smiles that he knows exactly what he's doing.
Money. That is competitive.
No, you're
If we had a congresswoman who was walking those grants through, perhaps. But Congresswoman Greene, she can't take credit for good things that happen while our people suffer.
Marcus, we're going to give you your last question. Josh, you get the final question for Marcus Flowers.
Marcus.
Mr. Flowers,
I don't understand how it
you said
works.
it here tonight that the voters in Northwest Georgia want a different member of Congress. You've said that. You made that clear. But the numbers in the primary tell a different story. And to be clear, numbers processed by local election workers in Georgia and reported by the Georgia Secretary of State. She received 30,000 more votes this primary than 2 years ago. If you take your vote...
That's what I was talking about when her constituents, her core group of voters, like the things that she's doing and show up to the polls to express that.
all your Democratic challengers' votes, all of her challengers' votes, she still had 13,000 more votes than everybody else running. What evidence can you provide, other than anecdotal, that the voters in Northwest Georgia want a change?
To us, it's not an anecdote that not everyone votes in a primary and a midterm.
It's true, but it's not really an answer to the question. I don't think he has a very good answer to this question at all, and he does kind of talk his way through it.
That's not anecdotal. In the last election cycle, more than 75,000 people voted against Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I mean, sure, but like overall, how many people live in the district? Like, you can throw out 75,000 voting against her, but if there's like a million people, I don't think there's a million, but if there's a million people, 75,000 isn't anything.
Now, we've brought people in from every corner of the district, newly registered people, and I've talked to, it doesn't matter if it's a Republican, Independent, or Democrat. I've talked to everybody. And everybody that I talk to, Republicans come up to me every day with tears in their eyes.
I don't know that that's necessary. Like, that feels like a slimy politician line, which would be why Marjorie Taylor Greene's constituents don't like other politicians. I can't picture anybody coming up to a politician with tears in their eyes for anything relating to another politician. Like, it seems like a stretch.
Saying, please, get rid of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She doesn't represent us. She truly doesn't. And I've heard this time and time again, across the board. A primary is not a general election. I guarantee you,
gentlemen, what you're hearing
that in the primary,
Marcus Flowers,
you will see
who's a man
difference.
who wears a hat and doesn't own one single head of cattle.
This is an ad hominem, and it's probably good. It's probably my favorite ad hominem in the history of debates, because what she meant to say was cowboy hat, and she does say that later, but she's just like, he wears a hat. Oh no.
He's a liar, and all he has done is sent emails all over the country to raise money for himself, and he pays himself out of his campaign with your...
I'm pretty sure that's what you're supposed to do. That's why you raise campaign money, so that you can have money for bills while you're campaigning. I don't know. I'll look it up later.
Donation dollars. If you're a California Democrat sending money to Marcus Flowers, he's paying himself to run for Congress and pretend that he can beat me in a blood-red Republican district. None of his Democrat defund the police, America Last policies represent our district, and I do.
Well, I'll tell you what, I do get a response to that. Yeah.
Well, we need to really move on because we are so far behind.
Definitely.
That concludes the first round of the debate. The candidates will now ask a question to their opponents. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to ask the question, 60 seconds to respond, and the candidate who asks the question will have 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Now,
they don't stick to this at all.
A random selection, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you may ask the first question.
Absolutely. Marcus, you're a father, and you are a representative of the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is the party of child abuse. It's the party that represents grooming children and sexualizing them in school.
I have to point this out. This is a conflation and a really consistent talking point that I don't want to, it's not even all Republicans, it's not all of the right. It's a pretty consistent talking point among Marjorie Taylor Greene's cohorts, I guess. Nobody is actually grooming any children. So what she's talking about is things like the drag queen story hour that happened at a library that's been like going viral in the news. That's not grooming. That's not exposing children to sexual predators. Like, these are the things. There's going to be a question later to Marjorie Taylor Greene that asks her how she vets the information for the things that she says in public. This is one of those things. Like, and she doesn't answer the question either. It's none of that is true.
Teaching anti-white racism in the terms of CRT education and genital mutilation of...
CRT is critical race theory, and it's not being taught at the elementary school, middle school, or even high school level. It is in colleges and universities, and it is not anti-white, unless by anti-white you mean teaching the full, horrible, traumatic history of how colonization has affected people of darker skin tones all over the world. So, to quote Marjorie Taylor Greene later, sometimes the truth hurts. And also, the genital mutilation is another talking point that isn't true. What they're talking about is gender-affirming surgery being performed on minors, which isn't happening at all. Gender-affirming surgery for transgender people is things like, colloquially known as top surgery, bottom surgery. It's not being performed on adolescents or small children or anybody under the age of 18, and it is monitored throughout the entire process by multiple doctors, and can be very difficult for some people to even get, even over the age of 18. So what is being conflated here, genital mutilation is a very real thing that happens, specifically to female children or children who are born, who are assigned female at birth, where things like they're having their labia sewn shut or cut off and damage to their clitoris and stuff like that. Like, that's actual genital mutilation, because it's also against their will, and it's with the idea that that's going to somehow, keep them pure for their wedding night or whatever, or inhibit sexual pleasure, that kind of stuff. Like, it's horrible and unnecessary, and it's being outlawed more places now than it used to be, which is fantastic. But it is not the same thing as gender-affirming surgery at all, and it shouldn't be conflated. But because she uses words like this, and it could technically fall under it by loose definitions with some mental gymnastics, her base just eats it up. And it's not like it's all stuff that's meant to be divisive, for one, and for two, it's to help dehumanize people who are different, because that helps her to other them, so that her base continues to get riled up and scared of what's different and what they don't know.
Kids that can't even get a driver's license, can't get a tattoo, and cannot vote. How do you stand there and represent the Democrat Party as a father? And do you believe in genital mutilation of children under the age of 18 and these puberty blockers that have severe health consequences?
Time for your question.
Citation needed, 1. 2, I lost it. In objectivity, Marcus doesn't actually answer any of her questions and goes to his talking points, and she does the same thing to him. So it's not necessarily like the whole concept of debates now with the internet seems really outdated to me, and I don't understand why we have them really anymore. Like, it made sense before the internet and before TV to have a town hall and come hear your candidates and stuff before you could vote for them, but we have the internet now. Why do we need to still do this? I don't know. I remember my other point. DACA. So she's like, you're the party of child mutilation or whatever, but she's totally fine with deporting children of immigrants. Make it make sense, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Make it make sense. If you're for children, you should be for all children, not just for white children.
I've introduced a bill to ban it and make it a felony to mutilate children's genitals. Do you stand by that?
Boy, that was a lot. And God bless you, Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you truly believe that, that I'm praying for you.
She can't answer that. So, like, when he has directly attacked her, she's just been like, grah. But, like, when he does the Southern fuck you, she's got nothing. Because how do you respond to that?
You know, I believe in this country.
Watch how much she blinks. She stares at him hard and just blinks.
I believe in our democracy, and I believe in standing up for human rights. People come up to me every day and tell me how they feel attacked by you. And yes, I'm talking about children in our LGBTQ plus community. Every day, Congresswoman Greene, seniors, Latinos, blacks, men and women, every day. This is how she treats the people of Northwest Georgia and the people of America. Attacks, constantly attacking. That's not representative, Greene. You represent them.
I do. I represent and I will always protect children. And that's
Unless they're children of immigrants.
why I introduced the Protect Children's Innocent Act, to protect children who just may be confused about their identity. Kids need to grow up. They do not need to have mastectomies, castration, or take dangerous drugs that have serious health consequences. Marcus Flowers represents the Democrat Party, and the Democrat Party is the party of child abuse. And we have...
I do want to point out, look how strong her eye contact with the camera is here. This is something we haven't really seen throughout the debate, and it stands out because she's not looking down as much as she was on other things. So she's back to her comfortable talking points, and that's why it's easier for her to make that stronger eye contact.
To stand up and stop it right now. To protect children, we protect them from making serious mistakes that will last a lifetime.
I will also say that the detransitioning comes up here in a minute, and people who detransition represent a very small fraction of a very small fraction of the population. So again, it happens, yes, but it's not necessarily indicative of everyone's experience or the majority's experience.
Same mistakes and regrets that many detrans people have right now.
Extreme examples and lies is what Marjorie Taylor Greene is doing, trying to misrepresent me.
That's the time on this. I really need you all to follow up. 30 seconds for a question. 30-second rebuttal.
She's putting a pinch. Stop. In American Sign Language, this is no, or if you're really mad, no. That's not necessarily what she was doing, but it was very much a you stop now.
Please don't talk over each other because that really slows us down. All right, Marcus, your question.
Congresswoman Greene, I left my job as a government official to run this race because of January 6th and your part in it. My granddaddy was a sheriff. My uncles were police captains, one of whom who was
She's just blinking so much.
Injured in the line of duty. You know, you spent your time in Congress these last couple of years providing aid and comfort to the January 6th insurrectionists. My question for you is, why do you care more about those criminals in jail than you do about the people of our district?
Ooh, she's got her chin down. It's kind of like a protect your neck, your vulnerable area thing right here. She is not happy with that particular question.
You want to know something? I care about stopping the two-tier justice system that is happening right now in America. I was a victim of the January 6th riot, and I've said it over and over again. I'm completely against what happened on January 6th, but I will...
Ooh, did you see that long blink there, putting up barriers? Let's rewind just a touch.
You want to know something? I care about stopping the two-tier justice system that is happening right now in America. I was a victim of the January 6th riot, and I've said it over and over again. I'm completely against what happened on January 6th, but I will not stand by and watch Merrick Garland turn the Department of Justice into a political weapon and the FBI sending it after parents that are addressing their school boards, people that walked in the Capitol and have been held in jail for nearly 2 years, while Antifa and BLM rioters go free and are never held accountable. I will always stand up for...
Those are some other buzzwords that her constituency loves, is the BLM rioters or the Antifa rioters. I don't have enough data to speak on that versus the people who are still in jail at the Capitol, other than to say that the people who were part of the January 6th insurrection, a lot of them that are in jail have their own video evidence of themselves breaking the law. So, like, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. Maybe there were people who were breaking the law during, Black Lives Matter protests or something like that, but, like, they didn't film themselves breaking the law.
Freedom, defend our freedom of speech, defend our Second Amendment, and defend everyone's ability to live the American dream. That's what I care about, and I truly care about representing those values and those abilities and freedoms for Georgia's 14th District.
So what I'm hearing is criminals over police officers. That's what I heard.
You're the party of defund the police, Marcus. Not
You
not
defund the police. That's
Republicans.
rich, Congresswoman Greene.
We fund
defund the FBI shirts and hats that you're selling, making money off of.
Yes, the FBI that is targeting
We're going to cut their mics in just a minute because that concludes our second round for those just joining us. This is the debate for the general election between candidates for Congressional District 14. We will now go back to our esteemed panel to ask questions to the candidate of their choice until we run out of time. As a point of moderator privilege, I may also ask a question of the candidates, and I'll determine when a rebuttal is appropriate. Josh Rowe, you'll get the first question in this round.
All right, this is to Marjorie Taylor Greene there. You're well known for making controversial statements. Detail your process for vetting and fact-checking your statements that you make in public.
Detail your process that vets the information that you... Let's hear that again, just real quick. Nope, too far.
Rebuttal is appropriate. Josh Rowe, you'll get the first question in this round.
All right, this is to Marjorie Taylor Greene there. You're well known for making controversial statements. Detail your process for vetting and fact-checking your statements that you make in public and post to social media.
Can you tell me what's controversial about defending the freedom of speech, or what's controversial about defending our border, or saying we need to? Can you tell me?
She's not looking at him very much at all. She's looking away a lot because she knows what the actual question is. Detail your process for vetting and fact-checking information that you say in public and post on social media. Got it that time. She instead is picking on the word he used, controversial, rather than answering the question.
I mean, example?
No, you do this every time we have a debate where I ask a question that's obvious and you're like, what do you mean? You were kicked off of your committees for saying things were controversial. You've apologized for controversial statements, right? Those types of things. What is your process for fact-checking and vetting the things that you say in public?
The things I say in public are the truth.
He didn't call you a liar. He asked you what your process was for vetting information. And I'm going to bet that because she doesn't actually directly answer this question, Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't have a process for vetting information.
And that's why they're so offensive to Democrat activists in the media just like you. And you're asking me a blanket question with no example. I stand by the things that I say. I stand by...
That smile that Josh has on his face there, like, he expected this answer, I'm pretty sure. Like, his forehead is up, but not as up as we've seen in the past. And that is like a half smile. It's not even a full smile. He's just like, I knew this was coming.
I stand by the things that I say. I stand by saying that we need to secure our border, that we need to protect all of our freedoms and our rights, that we need to stop the America Last Democrat communist policy.
Again, these are all her standard talking points, and she's comfortable giving them, which is why her eye contact is so good here. And I think given that she doesn't actually answer the question, that's probably pretty important that she makes good eye contact. But again, none of these answer the question. What she has said isn't necessarily what's the issue here. I mean, he did say controversial, but I have a feeling even if he didn't say the word controversial in his question, she still would have answered it exactly this way, because she doesn't have a process for vetting information. Or if she does, she knows that it's not a good process.
That are destroying our country. I stand by the words that I say. They're just offensive to Washington, D.C. and the swamp creatures there, because the words that I speak are the same as Americans back home, the same as people in Georgia's 14th district. And the words that I speak are the truth. And you want to know something, Josh? Sometimes the truth.
That was a very long eye blink right there. Very long. Look at that.
Words that I speak are the truth. And you want to know something, Josh? Sometimes the truth hurts. And Washington deserves to hear it. We're over $31 trillion in debt. Our government.
He didn't ask about the debt. He asked her process for vetting information, and she's just going to go pivot and go off on a wild tangent and not actually answer the question at all. And he's, again, he's not impressed.
It has failed the American people, and right now this administration has us on the verge of a nuclear war with Russia, where they care more about funding a war in Ukraine than they care about protecting Americans, helping homeless people on the street.
I just want to say, all of that can be done at the same time. It's not an either or thing. Like, we have a lot of money as a country. We could distribute it around a lot. I also want to say that isn't homeless, like issues surrounding homelessness more local than federal? I'll look it up.
And securing our border and stopping fentanyl from killing young people in America.
John, it's your turn to ask a question.
Thank you very much. Let's bring this back to reality and also bring this back to the 14th Congressional District. The I-75 corridor, gentlemen and ladies, right now is red hot with more than $600 million in new developments, 7.6 million square feet of new warehouses and industry planned in Gordon County. What proactive steps, both candidates, would you take to ensure that in Congress we have the infrastructure to safely support both this new growth and the additional safety concerns raised by these trucks and cars?
Who's first?
That's the question.
Can I take that?
I like because John goes, this is for both candidates, but then doesn't specify who he wants to go first. So I love that.
Yes, sir.
I'll take
both candidates the question.
Thank you, John.
Oh, I just noticed Marjorie Taylor Greene is on a box to make her taller. It's easier for the camera people to line everybody up. That's not it doesn't mean anything. I just noticed it. I didn't realize that Marcus Flowers was that much taller than her.
That is a big issue in our district, our infrastructure, and supporting new business and growth. You know, I've talked to mayors and city council members all over our district. We are actually losing companies coming into our district because we can't support it, because we don't have the housing, because we don't have the roads, because we don't have the water and the schools to support those districts. Dalton's is a bright star in our community, but there's so many others, and I will work day and night tirelessly to make sure that we have the infrastructure to support all of the companies who want to come into beautiful Northwest Georgia and provide us with great jobs. We're leading in energy here in Georgia. As a matter of fact, we have the largest solar manufacturing plant in the Western Hemisphere in Dalton.
I'd venture to guess that Marcus Flowers is left-handed. He is using his left hand a lot here and seems to be more illustrative with it. But again, I mean, he's pretty consistent with his eye contact, with his eyebrow flashes, with his talking with his hands. He's really consistent. He isn't looking at the floor. If he's looking at his notes, I haven't really noticed at all. And again, this is the kind of thing that we see of more traditional politicians, especially of politicians who have coaches and who practice this kind of thing. Cat? And that's the type of politician that Marjorie Taylor Greene's constituents typically do not like and don't feel represent them very well.
But some of those jobs need to be dispersed throughout the district, and I want to make sure of that. Congresswoman Greene, she's too busy flying around the country. She spent $37,000 in the last quarter alone on flights all over the country. She spends too much time in New York, Bedminster, Florida, Michigan, Arizona, Texas. She's never here in our district.
Time, and you've named her, so you get to respond?
Yes, I will respond.
So it took 18 minutes, but she finally waited until her So she finally waited until the moderator gave her permission to respond. I'm betting because she doesn't have an immediate defense for it and had to take that few extra seconds to think of one.
On to that. Marcus has never been a business owner and knows nothing about business.
We can see her smile creases here, though, which is indicative that she smiles a lot.
He's never signed the front of a paycheck, so it's hard for him to even comprehend how to do that. He supports the Democrat Party, the party of the Green New Deal, the party of destroying American energy independence, which is the #1 need for manufacturing companies in my district. And by the way, Calhoun is in Gordon County, not Dalton. That's Whitfield County. You don't know anything about our district.
I don't remember him saying Calhoun before. I don't know what that comment was representative of. The head scratching, the face touching, I think is just out of frustration and getting some energy out, some like tense energy. She's very, very, this is like her one go-to move. And I wonder, despite as much experience as she has being in the public eye, I wonder how comfortable she truly is with it, because it does seem like she's got a handful of go-to illustrations with her hands and doesn't stray very far from them. So like it's this with her right hand for the most part. Maybe there was a left hand in there, I don't know. I will say, oh, there's Marcus Flowers' watch. It's on his left hand, so he's probably right-handed. So left-handed people wear their watch on their right hand. Typically, there are exceptions always. But lefties notice other lefties. So I wonder if he's still, I do know of a handful of folks who have their watch on their left hand and are lefties. But anyway, yeah, she's not terribly illustrative. Most of her color comes from her words and her tone, and that's really what her voters really like about her, I think.
District. I am going to work very hard to lower inflation and also open up many opportunities for business.
He tried to poke her there and she didn't respond, so I will give you that one, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Good job not responding to that prod.
Businesses growing and developing in Northwest Georgia, and I'm so excited to be a part of that. Now, can I take my question?
That's the time. Well, we're going on Josh. You can ask a question.
Okay, this is for both of you. Let's start with
So she asked, so that was a rebuttal to what Marcus Flowers said. What she asked to answer was the infrastructure question, and Karen will realize that and come back to her.
Marcus Flowers. Our problems in this country are big, and way too often our conversations around these problems are way too small. A lot of criticizing, a lot of finger pointing in this conversation. What do you both offer that can help unify this country? Let's start with Marcus Flowers.
Absolutely. Honor, decency, and integrity. 3 core values that Marjorie Taylor Greene does not have. We've heard a lot from her, and she's good. She is good at spouting off utter nonsense that has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on in our district. I guarantee you, Georgia, if you allow me to be your next congressman, I will work day and night for you. Constituent services, something that you're not getting right now. Our mayors, our city council members, they'll have a seat at the table in D.C. Their needs will be met. Right now, I can tell you, I've talked to a lot of them. They haven't heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene.
May I have a rebuttal?
Yes, you may. And then your question, and I will let you go back to answer the infrastructure question as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You have no right to attack the hardworking people in my constituent services.
I don't understand where the attack was. He's specifically saying she's not doing her job. He's not saying people in her constituency aren't doing their job. I'm not sure where she's pulling this from. Kat?
They do a phenomenal job, and you know nothing about their hard work because they have served the constituents in Northwest Georgia over and over. So I will not have you attack them. They love their jobs. They love serving and helping people, and that is wrong, and you owe them an apology.
I don't know what he said that set her off here. I don't understand. He was specifically talking about her. Leave in the comments if I'm just way off base here. But, like, when did he attack the people who are working Does she think he's attacking the people working for her? Does she think he's attacking? I don't understand what she's mad about here as far as the constituents go.
You owe them an apology, my constituent services.
Why don't you list your offices on your website?
This is my rebuttal. Karen?
I'm looking for time for the rebuttal.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's my...
She doesn't have an answer, so she goes to thank you, and she looks to the moderator.
My rebuttal. Do not attack the people that work in our office.
And go on with you can answer the question.
Thank you very much. As a member of Congress that is very much looking forward to Republicans taking back the House in January, I'm excited to talk about the commitment to America. The commitment to America is going to provide an economy that is strong.
So here's where she's definitely reading from notes, because she's looking all the way down into where I imagine her hands are.
We are going to provide a nation that is safe. We are going to provide a future that is free, and we are very excited to hold government accountable. That means on oversight and through investigations, and I am very much looking forward to being a part of that and taking my place on committees.
These are all her pretty boilerplate talking points for her, and in no way answers any of the questions that Marcus Flowers didn't really answer it either. Like, the only thing candidates typically do in this debate is get out all of their talking points as much as they can and don't necessarily answer the question, which is why I find this format of learning about politicians kind of irrelevant.
I will work very hard to do two things. Number one, investigate wrongdoing and hold them accountable. Number two, work hard within my conference and within all of Congress to let...
I think it's notable that the left hand was for hold them accountable. So I wonder how much of the right versus left for her is like good versus bad.
To work hard within my conference and within all of Congress to legislate and produce bills that do these great things for a Republican commitment to America.
Can you give me a quick answer for the infrastructure question?
Infrastructure question. Yes, I'm in the construction company. So infrastructure is something I understand, and being a business owner for over 20 years, that's something I know how to do. What we're going to do for infrastructure is make sure America is...
She just spent a lot of her time on a non-responsive part of her answer.
Energy independent, support fossil fuels, stop funding failing green energies. Wind only supplies 9% of electricity, and then solar is less than 3%, but fossil fuels are over 60%.
It's interesting to me how she will cite hard numbers when they support her point of view. So she said all of those things very confidently, and I would have I would put money on that they're true. I haven't looked it up. I'm probably not going to, let's be honest. But I would say at the very least she believes that those numbers are accurate. And when she doesn't believe that what she's saying is either accurate or the whole truth, that's when we see a lot of the looking down or the looking away and the barriering. But she said that with complete confidence to Karen and to Marcus and the camera. So I would say watch out for when she doesn't cite hard data, because that's when she knows that the facts don't actually back up what she's saying.
And nuclear is nearly 20%. It's extremely important. What we also have to do is we have to fund actual infrastructure. Biden's infrastructure bill was actually about the Green New Deal and not about roads and bridges.
I'm pretty sure the Green New Deal hasn't actually passed at all. I think this is just a made-up talking point.
All right, we are going to move on now to closing statements because we have used up a lot of our time. That's all the time we have for the questions. Each candidate now will have 60 seconds for that closing statement. And Marcus Flowers, you will get the chance to have the first closing statement here.
Thank you, Ms. Greer. As was suggested earlier, I am running as Marcus Flowers, not Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I like that he says, so this is one of my favorite things that he says, as was suggested earlier. He said it. It wasn't suggested. He said it himself. So he doesn't have to say as it was suggested. He could say, as I mentioned earlier. So why he went for that particular wording, I don't know. I think it's funny.
Listen, I'm the son of a teacher, the grandson of a sheriff. I'm a veteran. I'm a father. I'm a member of this community. I've traveled this district for the last 2 years.
I do also want to say that the fact that he is a father has come up 3 times so far, that being the third. Marjorie Taylor Greene has 3 kids, and she doesn't talk about it at all until her closing statement in just a minute.
Years. And I've talked to people from every walk of life in every corner of our district. And what I hear from them is they want a representative who will work for them. This isn't about Republicans or Democrats. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about right and wrong. This is about chaos versus stability. This is about us.
I've watched this before, and I'm just zoning out.
I want you to go in starting tomorrow and vote.
It's hard
for right
to...
or wrong. Georgia.
I shouldn't talk over him because it's easier to hear the video than me. I'm zoning out. Like, this is all like filler stuff. It's not necessarily indicative of anything that's going to happen should he be elected. So it's like, it's almost not important. And I mean, his body language, again, it's consistent with how it's been this whole time. He's fairly comfortable up here, and I imagine a lot of that comes from the military. I don't know what he did or what his rank was, but being in the military can give someone a lot of confidence, especially standing in a room full of people. If you have to, give a briefing or something. I mean, he's a pretty standard politician. Like, I get why people who like Marjorie Taylor Greene wouldn't like people like Marcus Flowers, because they voted for Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's not a standard politician.
We have to decide what we want in our seat. Do we want a show horse, or do we want a workhorse who's going to get things done for us?
The pen was in his right hand there. He's probably right-handed.
God bless you, and thank you.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, you get the final closing statement.
Well, you just heard from my Democrat opponent that usually wears a cowboy hat but doesn't ride a horse and doesn't own any cattle. Fake cowboys, you might be an extra on Yellowstone when you get done with this career.
That's a good question.
Northwest Georgia, Georgia's 14th district, I want to thank you first and foremost for voting for me and putting your trust in me to represent you in Washington. And no matter how many people lie about me, like my Democrat opponent, people in the media, or anybody on the internet, I want you to know that I will stand up to these attacks and never change how I vote and how I legislate. You elected me to go to Washington.
I think this is probably the main part of this debate that she's actually rehearsed. She's getting it all across fairly confidently. Her eye contact is good. That ad hominem again about the cowboy hat and being a fake cowboy, like, what does that doesn't add anything other than, I guess, maybe her constituents like that kind of stuff. I don't know. I find it irrelevant.
To fight for your conservative traditional values, to bring fiscal responsibility back to Washington, which I know how to do because I'm a successful business owner, and also to protect your kids. That's my #1 priority because I'm a mom of 3 kids. So I want to ask you again for your vote. Early voting starts tomorrow. Election day is November 8th. Make sure you bring your friends and your family. Go out and vote for me, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it'd be an honor of my lifetime to go back in January and represent you again. Thank you very much.
And that concludes our debate. We'd like to remind voters that, as both candidates said, Election Day is...
I am going to let this run. We've got 2 more minutes because there is some interesting... Sorry, I didn't mean to cover my face. There's some interesting body language after the mics are cut off of the candidates interacting with the panelists and with the moderator.
Tuesday, November 8th, and early voting begins October 17th. Our thanks to the candidates and to our esteemed panel of journalists. We'd also like to thank the Atlanta Press Club for arranging today's debate. For more information about the debates they'll host this election season, visit atlantapressclub.org/debates. I'm Karen Greer from WSB TV. Thanks for joining us. The Atlanta Press Club Loudermilk Young Debate Series. Have a great evening.
So, like, right there, she was checking to make sure that it was okay that she was walking away, and somebody probably behind the cameras gave her, like, a thumbs up that it was fine. I want you guys to watch how Marcus Flowers interacts with the panelists versus how Marjorie Taylor Greene interacts with them, because I think the way that Marcus comes off is more engaging, even though he got asked. I mean, he got asked some hard questions. He didn't necessarily answer the hard questions, but he got asked them. And I imagine that, again, this is pretty boilerplate politician, kind of interaction, but I think it's an interesting contrast to watch the two of them. Marcus came in for that big swooping handshake and shook it pretty firmly. And John over there giving out business cards. I think business cards still serve a purpose, but it is very much a generational thing. So see, now she's smiling like real big while interacting with folks and stuff like that. So I do think a lot of the lack of smiling on her part was probably more due to nerves, because like she does have the smile lines, like she laughs a lot or smiles a lot. To have those smile lines there, they're not a bad thing. Embrace mine. So I think that now she's a bit more relaxed because she's not quite as on camera as she was before. She's looking a little confused as to what she should be doing right now. Yeah, that's it for the body language. So I hope you guys enjoyed that and enjoyed the fact that you get a bonus video because I was awake with COVID. And yep, I'm using filler words now. I hope to have the final segment of the Hovind-Ross debate out shortly, since I'm not going to be in at work probably for a little while. I'll have some time. It'll just really depend on how I'm feeling and how the kid is feeling. So I will see y'all in the next video. Please, please, please be kind humans. Okay.